All right, welcome back to Reflections, everyone, where we talk about all things Church of Christ with the Elijah message. It is wonderful to be back with you, spending this time together. So we're talking about how the Bible is interpreted. So let's go back to the Bible. Let's go to the book of Galatians, chapter 4. Let's pick up here in verse 21. Tell me, ye that desire to be under the law, the books of Moses, the Torah, do you not hear the law? For it is written that Abraham had two sons, the one by a bondwoman, the other by a free woman. So this is Genesis chapter 16. This is the story of Hagar and Sarah. But who was of the bondwoman was born after the flesh. Because Sarah gave Hagar to Abraham for a son. But he of the free woman was by the promise. God promised Abraham and Sarah in their old age that they would have a son. Which things are an allegory, for these are the two covenants. The one from the Mount Sinai, which gendereth to bondage, which is Hagar. And this is the Sinai covenant, the covenant of God to Israel, the covenant of the books of Moses. For this Hagar is Mount Sinai in Arabia, and answereth to Jerusalem, which now is, and is in bondage with her children. Bondage because it's temporal, it's tied to the world. But Jerusalem, which is above, is free, the heavenly Jerusalem, which is the mother of us all. So the law, as Paul says, which teaches us righteousness, is for this life, for the temporal life. But Jesus, the new everlasting covenant, who saves through grace by faith, represents the heavenly Jerusalem, represents salvation. What's interesting about this story is that it's a really wonderful example of the Bible not taking the Bible literally. Because he says, this is an allegory that I'm using. And it represents this idea that the scriptures have such a depth of meaning to them. Let's look at an example. Let's go to the book of Deuteronomy. Chapter 7. I know. Starting in verse 1 here. When the Lord thy God shall bring thee into the land whither thou goest to possess it, and hath cast out many nations before thee, the Hittites, and the Girgashites, and the Amorites, and the Canaanites, and the Perizzites, and the Hivites, and the Jebusites, 7 nations greater and mightier than thou. And 7 is a holy number. So this is letting us know, as a holy number 7, as a complete or a total number, it means all the nations. And when the Lord thy God shall deliver them before thee, thou shalt smite them and utterly destroy them. Thou shalt make no covenant with them, nor show mercy unto them. Neither shalt thou make marriages with them. Thy daughter thou shalt not give unto his son, nor his daughter shalt thou take unto thy son. For they will turn away thy son from following me, that they may serve other gods. So will the anger of the Lord be kindled against you, and destroy thee suddenly. But thus shall ye deal with them. Ye shall destroy their altars, and break down their images, and cut down their groves, their sacred poles, their asherim, symbols of the goddess Asherah that we believe, and burn their graven images with fire. For thou art a holy people. Holy means set apart. Unto the Lord thy God. The Lord thy God hath chosen thee to be a special people unto himself, above all people that are upon the face of the earth. And there's a lot of similarities here with this scene in the book of Ezra. Let's go to the book of Ezra for a moment. Ezra chapter 9. So the Israelites have just come back from the Babylonian captivity, and they're rebuilding the temple and the walls of Jerusalem. First verse. Now when these things were done, the princes, the officers, came to me saying, the people of Israel and the priests and the Levites have not separated themselves from the people of the lands, have not separated themselves, just as God said to be in Deuteronomy 7. For the people of the lands doing according to their abominations, even of the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Perizzites, the Jebusites, and the Ammonites, the Moabites, the Egyptians, and the Amorites. For they have taken of their daughters for themselves and for their sons, so that the holy seed have mingled themselves with the people of those lands. Yea, the hand of the princes and rulers hath been chief in this trespass. And when I heard this thing, I rent my garment and my mantle, and plucked off the hair of my head and of my beard, and sat down astonished. Then when we assembled unto me every one that trembled at the words of the God of Israel, because of the transgression of those that had been carried away. And I sat astonished until the evening sacrifice. And at the evening sacrifice I arose up from my heaviness, and having rent my garment and my mantle, and fell upon my knees, and spread out my hands unto the Lord my God, and said, O my God, I am ashamed and blush to lift up my face to thee, my God. For our iniquities are increased over our head, and our trespasses is grown up unto the heavens. I'm going to skip to verse 15, but go back and read this. It's really fascinating. O Lord God of Israel, thou art righteous, for we remain yet escaped, as it is this day. Behold, we are before thee in our trespasses, for we cannot stand before thee because of this. What's this story about? Is it about this angry, vengeful, wrathful God coming to a certain people and saying, I want you to take out a whole civilization and have nothing to do with them? I'm going to annihilate everything to the point of no memory of these people will yet to be. No, of course not. This is about giving your whole life to God. This is about ridding yourself of all that hinders your daily walk with God. It's not putting God first in your life, His first importance. Not separating yourself from the secular and the godless and the hedonistic. But it's about keeping yourself from the powers of darkness, from sin, death, and Satan. And to think about what are those things that hinder your walk with God? What are those things that you should remove from your life? That you should cut down? And that you burn in the fire? You know, what is it that's going on in your life? You know, the struggles that you have. And you read this passage here in Deuteronomy 7 and Ezra 9. And you realize that this is what God is offering you. God can come into your life. And He has a holy land prepared for you. In my Father's house there are many mansions, Jesus says. But get rid of all the things in your life that hinder your spiritual walk with God. Let's go to the book of Acts just for a moment. This is Peter speaking. Then Peter opened his mouth and said, "Of a truth I perceive that God, the God of the Old Testament, is no respecter of persons. But in every nation, he that feareth him," feareth means to respect, "and worketh righteousness is accepted with him." And we've been blessed, absolutely blessed. And I know sometimes it seems that America is backsliding and it's not a God-fearing country, but it is. You know, God was so foundational to the founding of our nation. And in the Elijah Message tradition, we believe that America is the promised land of the Nephites. And some of the tribes of Native Americans whose ancestors were the Lamanites. And God promised them this land. There's an interesting idea that I kind of ponder and maybe work with a little bit, kind of out of the moral influence school of thought. Kind of this idea that the Bible is a reflection of humanity. You know, that the books of Moses in particular is a reflection of the human condition. Kind of another way of reading this, that all of the good things and the bad things that God does, it's really us doing it. But it mentions God doing it to remind us that God is mindful of what we're doing. You know, when we're committing great atrocities in life, when we're hurting people, God is aware of what we're doing. And that's reflected in these narratives, in these stories. So when we look at, for example, to go back to Deuteronomy 7, where the Israelites were told by God that He is going to utterly destroy all these people, and you're going to eradicate all the stuff, all of their cultural significance. Well, who does that? We do as human beings. And we're still doing it. You know, people are hurting each other. And we see this with the Jewish people, and we see this with Christians. And historically, not just historically, but today. My brothers and sisters, we're going to continue this idea in our next video. Things to reflect on, to think about. Until next time, my brothers and my sisters, I invite you into the Elijah Message House.